Aloha! That was not funny. What is wrong with you? I gave it my best shot.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. Oh my God, I'm laughing too hard.
It's like you need a standing 8 count. You must leave the room. You're not professional right now. With authority. Aloha.
Welcome to the most muscleless podcast in Bay Area sports. Welcome to ABC7 Sports.
With authority.
We have the giggles. I do.
No, you do.
I can't
Are
stop
you going to be professional for... This is like the 6th time we've tried to start this podcast, and you keep cracking up. You told me a story about Escape from Alcatraz, and ever since that, you basically just can't function.
The best parts of this show are when we're not recording. I wish we could somehow invert that and then entertain everybody.
A lot of it would have to be bleeped out, but
that's possibly true.
But we're on episode 20.
Wow.
They said we couldn't make it this long.
We actually were told when we first started doing this that if we could make it to 5, it would be a monumental accomplishment.
Based on the previous 5 takes I witnessed, I'm kind of siding with the others at this point. But anyway, coming off the Bay Bridge series, are either of these teams, the A's or the Giants, going to the playoffs? And I say, nay.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know it's a low blow for you. We're gonna interview a man who started out dirt poor and has dominated his sport for decades. May the force be with him, John Force, Hot Rod King. Also, we sneak preview. Not too many people have been in there, inside the Chase Center, which will be unveiled for the media, I believe, in a little over a week, maybe a week and a half. But the best features that we saw when we went behind the scenes of the Chase Center, plus Antonio Brown's circumcision. No, next! No, he described his feet as being circumcised, which is an odd way to describe frostbite.
Yes, it's very odd. The whole thing's been odd, including the helmet saga. We'll get into that a little bit. We have a lot of different takes on that.
Are you composed now? Are you able to?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
This show has started. It's not funny anymore.
Okay. Unfortunately, that is what many of the would-be sponsors have also said. So, my take on the A's and Giants at this point. Well, we should say, first of all, 2 games in San Francisco. We had a chance to go to the night game. Love the energy and the buzz in the crowd, yes?
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that a lot of people try to kind of hate on the overhype of the Bay Bridge series. It's just a regular season game. The teams aren't even in the same division. So there's a lot of takes out there that it's just not that special. The whole drama's within the fans, not really on the field. And I don't really get that sense a lot of the time. I, growing up in the Bay Area, always really look forward to this series because if you grew up here, you had friends that were Giants fans if you were an A's fan and vice versa. And you spent all year doing the whole, what if, the argument. And then when the games actually were played, it was really fun to really just sit there and enjoy it with your friends. Everybody's kind of reunited, even from a media standpoint.
Right.
Us being out there that night, you see everybody come together from the media landscape in addition to the fan bases, and it's just a cool get-together. I really enjoy the atmosphere.
Except you hate the split caps.
I hate the split caps. You got to pick a side. And it's just annoying.
They don't look great.
They look stupid. Yeah, and then the split jerseys are even worse. I mean, if you grew up in the Bay Area, what fun is it debating and arguing and bantering with people if you're a fan of both?
Well, it's okay to be a fan of both.
It's all right to like them
both. The designs aren't
but
that pretty. The
true.
only thing that's worse, I saw the Lakers-Clippers split cap.
Oh.
That is absolutely... That makes... the Giants-A's split cap looks like a work of art compared to the Clippers-Lakers thing. It's horrid. But anyway, I would make the case after being out there, and, look, it's a large enough sample size. We're 120 games in. And obviously the A's are the better team. That's not a shocker. That's not... there's no hot take there, okay? They're 68-52 as we tape. And we gave people a chance to make easy money in
Easy, free money.
Episode 5, taking the over, what was it, 83.5 on win total?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to blow past that. But I would make the case that both of these teams are unarmed and dangerous as opposed to armed and dangerous, because once you get past Madison Bumgarner on the Giants side and Mike Fiers on the A's side, you have a whole bunch of question marks, and I don't know about any of these guys. I mean, Jeff Samardzija's been pitching well. The A's have a couple of guys in their rotation who have done well. I mean, we're coming off of Homer Bailey dominating the Giants again. Also, Chris Bassett. Do you really trust Samardzija? But like on the Giants side, actually, we should do A's first because they are the better team.
Yeah.
And that way, maybe people on Twitter and one person in particular will not be crushing me because I put the A's first where they belong.
Yeah, and I mean, he obviously is an impartial journalist when it comes to various sports. The only bias I ever see out of Larry in his defense is because we made a bet that the A's would win more games than the Giants, and he obviously doesn't want to eat 2 whole foot-long meatball sandwiches when the A's have 15 more wins than the Giants this season. So you look at it on paper going into this year, and you go, wow, like I don't know how they're going to cobble together a rotation that has any level of success.
Agreed.
Now, what they've actually done is beyond impressive in my mind because, Mike Fiers is their de facto ace, but on most other teams, he's probably not an ace.
Mike Fiers is the guy that they didn't feel comfortable enough starting in the playoff game, the wild card game. Yeah, the wild card game, and he's your ace now. Now, obviously, it's a different year.
Yeah.
But it sort of tells you about what you have on your staff.
Yeah. So on paper, he's a questionable ace, but in practice, I mean, his stats are incredible this year.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at it since April 20th. He hasn't given up more than 4 runs. He has a 9-0 win streak going. Personal win streak, not team win streak, but 9-0 in record for himself, even though I think wins and losses are like the most pointless stat in baseball. It's still impressive to be 9-0 over your last 17 starts. You look at Brett Anderson, who in the world would have thought that at this point in the season he'd have an ERA under 4? I mean, it's unbelievable. He has 10 wins.
Right.
Again, a pointless stat, but you look at the numbers and you go, wow, like that's more than anybody expected, and Chris Bassett has been fantastic too for them. So you look at their rotation, I mean, with Tanner Roark coming in too, who's a solid middle of the rotation guy, you have, I say this many, many times, Sean Manaea coming back. He is right there. He's pitching well in AAA. And then Jesus Luzardo, he's like,
are you going to die on this hill?
I'm going to die on this hill.
Die on?
Because you know what? I remember, when Rich Harden was coming up, you would hear all these just incredible stories about just the pure raw ability of this guy. And he was supposed to just be the next great thing. And it was just injuries. And you just really never got to see what a healthy Rich Harden could look like. And I fear that might be what happens with Jesus Luzardo. It might be a little too early still, but he has had Tommy John. He's had a bunch of different issues this season. But if this guy can come in and be healthy, you're talking a lefty with crazy heat and crazy skills. So that will shore up a bit, that rotation.
Well, there's a lot of ifs there. But,
yeah.
I mean, if I tell you your rotation is Mike Fiers, Brett Anderson, Homer Bailey, Tanner Roark, and Chris Bassett, that scares nobody.
It doesn't.
Absolutely. You know who's scared? Nobody.
The
Jim
A's are
Harbaugh.
scared.
And as we tape, they're 2 back of the Rays, 1 back in the loss column. So we'll see. But the irony when we're talking about unarmed and dangerous is when we were looking at the A's, I thought the bullpen was going to be.
That was supposed to be the strength.
Right. And some of these starting pitchers have been surprisingly effective, I think you would say, based on their career resumes. But the bullpen has been, in fact, they almost, blew the game today. So you just don't really know. It just doesn't feel like there's going to be, again, unless Sean Manaea comes back and he's at ace level, it just doesn't feel right to me. It just doesn't feel like this is, to use one of your favorite lines, team of destiny sort of thing.
I don't think I want to label anybody that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That does not work out well for us.
Yeah, just ask the San Jose Sharks about that label from Casey Pratt.
Sorry, Sharky.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you turn it over to the Giants, you have Mad Bum and then...
Well, Shark, who's pitched...
All right.
Effectively better than I would have guessed in the last month or so. I mean, he's had some really quality starts. And then it's just, Tyler Beatty, Sean Anderson, Connor Menez. I mean, Beatty, ERA over 5. Anderson, ERA over 5. Menez, ERA over 7. And there's no way you can make... Remember, like a few weeks ago, we were romanticizing this whole coming up to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Giants, they're making a push. They got Dickerson. The whole chant, and everybody's going crazy. He gets hurt.
Yeah.
The offense falls apart. And now you've got Mad Bum and Shark, and then 3 guys that can't get you through inning 5. There's no way to put together a run when it's win 1, lose 2, win 1. Now for a while they were winning series, taking 2 out of 3. You had an interesting remark when you were looking at the relief staff in Game 2 of the series, and it's a whole bunch of guys that, unless you're following AAA baseball closely, you've never heard of.
No, and that's true, and it's almost embarrassing to say. I follow baseball very closely. I have 3 fantasy baseball teams. I watch it every day. I cover Bay Area sports, but when I was listening to the names in the Giants bullpen, it's like, who are these guys?
Well, they made trades.
I know, but is this crazy? It was almost jarring to hear the names because it's not what it was before.
Well, Farhan decided they weren't going to go all in, but they weren't going to be all out either. So they got rid of their middle inning relievers, and as it turns out, they need them because these guys can't last more than 3, 4, 5 innings, and so you're constantly going into the pen for your Sam Coonrod. Just get whoever you can to get you through some innings, and they're having a rough time, and the offense has not performed as of late. So Giants, as we tape, sitting at 60-61. I'm going to give you the San Francisco version of your Sean Manaea fantasy, Johnny Cueto. He's rehabbing, seems to be pitching well, has velocity. If he could come back in the month of September and give you 4 or 5 starts. Now, it just seems like so much to ask for.
It does.
But same thing for Manaea.
It does on both sides.
But then imagine if you had Bum, Shark, and Cueto. Suddenly, if the offense is even decent, 3/5 of your staff is looking really strong if they pitch up to capabilities. I still don't see... the Giants have so many teams to jump over. They're 4 back. The wild card is Nationals, Cardinals, Brewers, Phils, Mets. Mets? How did the Mets get it? It's unbelievable, their story. And the Diamondbacks traded their best pitcher in Greinke, so you would expect a fall off. But there's too many teams to hurdle, and their staff is not good enough, and the offense isn't good enough. If they could finish at 500 this season, I would say they've done a great job. That's what they are. They've rebuilt their outfield. The pitching staff, it's, to use a Bochy term, they're ham and egg, and we're going to have to ham and egg through this. And that's what they are.
Yeah.
So to have any delusions of grandeur like we did a few weeks ago, like, could they stay this hot with Dickerson? No. And so they are what they are, but they still got to split with the A's, who on paper look like a far superior team.
The Giants are who we thought they were.
They are. I was thinking about Danny Green.
R.I.P.
Love Danny.
The Giants, they were obviously playing over their heads, but they played themselves into a position where they could not sell. So what they did was trade those bullpen pieces and kept Mad Bum, and I think that was a win-win for everybody.
All right.
I think we'd agree on that. But let's drop real quick. You mentioned something I'm glad you mentioned. The Giants have to hop over 6 teams to get in there. The A's have really one they have to worry about.
Tampa Bay.
So I think that the A's have a very good shot. Obviously, they're not in control of their own destiny at this point, but with some people coming back, if they can play a part, if they can get more out of Chris Davis, if they can get anything at all out of Blake Trinan, that'll help fix the bullpen. I don't even know what's happened there. So I think that could help them.
Okay, so let's put the Pratt family fortune on the line.
All the Bitcoins.
All the biddies. Are you betting on the A's to make at least the second wild card position, to make the playoffs? I'm saying they are going to come close and then just not quite get there.
I will at least say they'll get into the wild card game. And I know that on episode 5 we told you, put all the Bitcoins, we didn't really say that, but put it all on the A's over 83. That's a lock. I told you yesterday, before the game 2 of this series, that I wanted to put all the biddies on the A's to win today, and they sure enough did. It was an obvious one for me.
And how much did you actually...
I did not do anything, of course.
Scared money never wins.
Here's some quick facts to wrap up this Battle of the Bay thing, because I really do enjoy this series. So let's look at some of the recent history. The Giants have lost 5 of their last 7 games against the A's, which is pretty much an A's domination of the Battle of the Bay series right now. With today's victory, the Athletics improved to 11-7 in interleague play this season, have not lost a series in San Francisco since 2015.
Is this A's wrap-up with Chris Townsend? What are we doing here? Is that?
I just want to point
Where's
out
Townie?
that if you're going to do a battle, Townie's my boy, by the way.
No,
but if you're
know.
going to do a series, Battle of the Bay, you got to decide who's the winner. And right now, the A's are the winner. It's split 1-1 right now, but recent history suggests the A's are the better team.
Wait, there's no debating that. I mean,
No.
we started the segment by saying that.
It's a pure domination. I just won the debate right there.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. The record is 68-52. They're 16 games over 500.
They're the better team.
Yeah, they are better. But
they need to be 15 games better, though, if Larry's going to eat those meatball sandwiches.
Well, the other thing is they shouldn't be splitting with the Giants.
Well, you give them the Mad Bum game. You throw that out the window.
Well,
they'll probably face them again in the next series, though.
Exactly. So you're going to split again?
Well, if they split,
Mr. Going to the
then
playoffs?
we'll just go back to all these stats that suggest they're the better team.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
All right. More on A's wrap-up when we come back. Let's get to our feature interview of the week, because it's fun when we have guests, and as much fun as it is to try to get you through your laughing fits. And we're going to post Casey uncontrollably laughing.
I'll bump it in somewhere.
Somewhere. But we had a chance to interview a man who started out just dirt poor. His family had absolutely nothing. And I just want to set up this story because we didn't get a chance to do it in the formal interview with John Force, the Hot Rod King. But his family, they worked in orchards and they picked fruit and vegetables. And as the story goes, little Johnny, he was too young to work in the fields. And so they would just let him run around the orchard, right? And to keep track of him, because the family had to work, the parents had to work, they would tie a balloon to him. And so they knew where he was when he was running around the orchard because they could see the balloon until one day it burst and then they had to go find him. But anyway, no, that's I read that. I'm so bummed we did not get a chance.
We didn't talk to him about that.
Well, he was rolling off Castrol and Chevy and all these.
That was you
sponsor
rolling
names.
all that off.
Well, that happened too. But let us get to our interview with the great John Force. What a pleasure to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the Hot Rod King. John Force is with us. John, it's a shame you could not get more of your trophies into this shot because, you got so many trophies, it's like you're using them for doorstops at this point. What is going on there?
I've just done a lot of winning, but it was a lot of great people behind me, a lot of great sponsors. I like to take all the credit, but I can't. We just keep doing it. A guy like me should retire, but I ain't that smart in racing. These 300-mile-an-hour fuel funny cars, mine's a Chevrolet. I love it.
Hey, you just turned 70 a few months ago. 70 is usually an age when people are not going 300 miles per hour. So, like when you go to the California DMV, do they look at your driver's license and go, but I don't know, we might have to give you a driving test.
They don't want to give me a driver's license to drive on the street, let alone 330 miles an hour. But no, it's not that tough. It's the shows week in, week out. When we're not racing the 24 NHRA Mellow Yellow events, we're somewhere doing a show. Kearney, Nebraska, I just came from there. We're just at a match race in Norwalk, Ohio. It's an ongoing thing. That's the hard part. The driving is easy. The car does the running for me. And as long as that old hot rod likes me, I'm going to keep doing it.
Now, you just won your 150th race, which is a monumental accomplishment for you. I know that you can't take all the credit, as you said earlier, but let's just talk about that moment for you and what that meant.
Well, it wasn't just me. There was a lot of people along the road. I surrounded myself with great sponsors like Peak, Motor Oil, and Chevrolet, and Auto Club, and Montana Brand, and Advanced Auto Parts. I got a lot of great people around me that support my teams, but they expect us to win. But with their money, I was smart enough to know it's like a football team. You got to put everybody together in that huddle, and you got to come out swinging. And that's what we did. But there was a lot of people in my career, and the biggest was Austin Coyle that won the majority of the races. We go back 35 years, but there was others, Mike Neff, Dean Antonelli, John Schaefer. The list goes on. And now Brian Karate, leads the charge on this car with my son-in-law, Daniel Hood, and Tim Fabrizi. These guys and the team of the 10 kids with me that made it happen. And then I got my shops in Indy that build my chassis, my engines, my paint. John Force, American made there in Indy. They made it happen. And it's really embarrassing because I get all the credit. And I ain't trying to be humble here. I'm just telling you the fact. They gave me a race car on that day that could just beat anybody. And I'm really proud of them.
You know, I wanted to ask you about the whole sponsorship thing, because more in racing than in any other sport, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's hot rods, the second every driver gets out of the car, and I watched a bunch of interviews of you in preparation for this, and you jump out and it's a laundry list of you want to thank Castrol, keeping that engine lubricated. You got Chevrolet because that engine was firing. Your crew's eating Subway sandwiches. Do you teach these guys this, like, here's your script? 1, I want Castrol. 2, but every driver does it. So how does everybody learn that? It's almost like WWE, where you know what your lines are.
You know, in IndyCar, they're our big brother in NASCAR, and we love them. And for them, they do it good too. We all do it. But I think NHRA drivers, Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, the bikes, wherever, we know that we have to get those sponsor plugs in there. And at the end of the year, like being on your show, I had to go home and sleep for an hour because I haven't slept in a week. And it's been off and on and traveling. And I had to get back here because this chance with you, you're a big operation there. I'm honored that you asked me to be on and to share all this with you. But I need your exposure more than you need me. And at the end of the year, they look at it. They spend $4 to $5 million to run these race cars. And how do you get people in this economy to spend that kind of money? It's really tough. We give them a great TV package on Fox with NHRA. But now something new has hit. Social media. I didn't even know what that was 5 years ago. And a guy says, push one button and you're everywhere in the world. And boy, let me tell you, my phone exploded. I had over 250 incoming calls, and social media. I had to turn it over to Sarah in our PR department, fix some of this stuff. I'm not even smart enough to run a phone.
Hey, you talk about the convenience of social media. Obviously, you have great sponsors. There's a ton of money in it for you now. But it wasn't always this easy, right? I mean, can you take us back to your roots a little bit? How did you learn at first that this was your calling in life? I know you haven't always had it this easy.
Well, first, let me say, we are a family here in NHRA. The young kid that won the same day as me, and he swore he was going to get his first win, Austin Prock in Top Fuel, in that Montana brand, he was going to get it on the day I won 150. He told me that months ago, and man, he did. And it was just amazing. But I raced his grandpa and at Tom Prock years ago, 40-something years ago. And then his dad, Jimmy Prock, runs the Auto Club car, a Chevrolet that's in the points lead, and I moved up to second to them. But Jimmy Prock won 5 or 10 races with me, tuning for me. So they were all part of this 150. But it really is just amazing how these kids can work 7 days a week. They live it. They love the road. This is our life. And we give our life to NHRA Drag Racing. We give it to the fans. We give it to the sponsors. And the fans are unbelievable. Seattle was a place I grew up, and they were unbelievable. I went in the stands with them because it was just a moment when I won, oh man, get this monkey off my back. But then I found out the monkey's the one that got my head right. And the monkey everyone says, where's the monkey? It's fictitious. I made it up. But it got my mind right that, I've had years I won 12, 13, 14 races. I've had years that I only won one. But I've won every year at least one race as long as I can remember. And I've been out here 40 years, more than 40. But on that day, everything went right. And I got to give credit to that make-believe animal that I created, that little monkey, that he got me focused on the car. You don't know your race car. You better love it. You better live it. You better smell it, breathe it, eat it, and that wind will come. I'm glad it's over. But I love that monkey.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I want to talk about something related to that monkey because There's one part of your story I thought was really interesting. Your family did not have a lot of money when you were a kid, and neither did mine. And it's always in the back of my mind. It doesn't matter. And you're as successful as could possibly be. You've got this big mansion. You got a whole team. You got a zillion sponsors. But I always find that there's something in the back of my mind that takes me back to, man, it could all be gone tomorrow. Like, is that ever in the back of your head? Like, you know that you could live in a one-room trailer if you had to. You don't want that for the rest of your family, but it's a motivator. It's got to be a motivator for you.
You guys are smart because you hit it right on the head. We have a fear. I grew up in a little trailer house. My mom was a cook in Northern California at the Trees of Mystery and up by Arcata, Eureka. My dad was a logger. I logged in Seattle and Washington with my dad. We were strawberry pickers. My mom was always a cook. My dad a trucker. And I lived in this little trailer house with 5 brothers and sisters. And I ain't going back to that trailer house. Never. And the day I got a car, I've lived in cars and motorcycles since I was 14 years old. Because you know why? It was an escape. You could get in your car at a 54 Chevy. When I was 15 and a half, I had a driver's license that my mom helped me get just so I could get to work at Denny's restaurant. And what I'm saying is, you don't want to go back, so you keep working. But in that car, why I fell in love with cars, you carry your school books, your football helmet, your girlfriend's picture, everything's in that car. So at the end of the day, you ain't going back, or you going back where you came from, and I ain't going back either. And I'm going to race till I drop, and that could be any day. The pain is taking its toll on me.
Oh, man. I mean, you mentioned having your girlfriend's picture in the car. I mean, what do you attribute? You know, your wife has been a big part of this as well, and she was obviously behind the scenes in a lot of ways helping you through all this. So, I mean, how much credit do you give her, your family, who you now get to race with? I mean, how much credit do they deserve here, too?
Well, all of it. If you don't have a wife that'll allow you to be this, we're rodeo people. We're on the road week after week. I finally got home yesterday. We raced till 2 a.m. in Ohio. I got home at probably 2 p.m. My son Jacob, him and Noah, and my granddaughter Autumn, they drive junior dragsters. And they play football and hockey and sports and stuff. But at the end of the day, I got home to the birthday party. It was like, please, in Chicago, don't let this plane be late. I got to get home to that grandbaby because my girls grew up. Ashley, Adra, Brittany, Courtney, and they're all part of the business. And they drive fuel funny cars and top fuel dragsters. They've won championships. But what I'm saying is they were all there for me for that 150. That was big. Everybody says, you're going after Richard Petty. I know Richard, but not very well. But I've never raced him. So those are my heroes, the Don Perdomes, the Kenny Bernsteins, Earnhardt, the guys I grew up with, watching. I love them. I don't want to be them. I'm not them. I just want to be a great racer, and I want the fans to love what I do so I can keep the sponsors and do what I love. But my wife was there for every championship win with 3 babies, one on one hip, one on the other. My other daughter, Adra, was there. We all part of that, and the win finally came. 150 was a little tricky. It took me 24 events, a year to get that win. And it's like, man, is something wrong with me? Have I hit my head? Yeah, 4 times last year. I got more miles in a helicopter to the hospital and in an ambulance than I had on the racetrack. I crashed 4 times within 4 months. And they said, man, you need to get over this stuff. You need to go do something. Find a hobby.
Fishing.
But I don't know how to golf. I don't know how to fish. You know what I'm saying? All I do is race. And that's my whole life. And I get to talk to people like you and be on TV. And I love it.
I got a question for you because I'm from Hawaii. So every year my daughter and I would race on the beach. And I'd give her a head start. And we'd run like a quarter mile on the sand. And, I wanted her to be close to me. And I'd give her that head start. And then one year, she just smoked me. And that was it. The tables turned. So you got 3 daughters racing. I know you want them to do well, but what's it like internally? Because, I love for my girls to do great things, but not when they're leaving me in the dust on the beach. How about for you on the track?
but you got to put on 3 hats. Number one, you're an owner. So when your girls drive, and 3 of them drove, and my 4th daughter, Adra, she runs the money in the company. I ain't smart. I can't even count the money. She does it all. But what I'm saying is the other 3 girls that chose to drive, I couldn't believe at 16, they didn't want cars. They wanted pickup trucks. You know what I mean? And it's like, we're going to the races. We want to be part of it. And then they got in that loop of racing, going to college. They all got their 4-year degrees. But what I found along the way, and I didn't even realize they did it so they could see their dad. And mom would bring them during the holidays and during the summer, and they wanted to be around their dad. And I think that was key. We go to Hawaii. We go to all the islands, but we love Maui. And I can't run. I had polio as a kid. I wanted to play football in high school and college, and I did. But I was never going to make it. In the pros, I got a car to do the running for me. But my girls, they excelled. But I told them, you got to get an education first. Because it's a computer world now. And it's social media, and it's B&B business. It ain't like just a sign on a race car. But I told my girls, what's really, really important is I got to put on 3 hats. And I got to be your boss. You got to drive the car. You got to do the show. You got to do the work. You got to do the interviews. No matter how tired you got, or we don't have a sponsor and you don't race. Number 2, I had to put on a hat and get in the car and race them. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to beat your own kid. Robert Height, my son-in-law that's married to Adra, I tell him, I got to go up against you and I got to fight you like you're the enemy. And he does the same thing against me. But you have to put on that hat. But you want to win, that driver's hat, but you also want them to win. And then it's your kid. And when you look at your kid in a helmet sitting in a race car, you've seen her on fire end over end, and you look at her and they're taking her to the hospital, and you look at them little old eyes in that helmet, it ain't no different than the first time I put her on a tricycle when she was 5, and she looked at me, Dad, I'm scared. And that was probably the greatest pain I ever had with Courtney. I looked at her and she goes, Dad, I'm scared. And it was like, oh, man. And she was my tough kid. She'd fight the men. But she had some crashes and some head injuries, and she was worried. I said, baby, you got to put that behind you, and you got to trust your dad, and you got to believe in God, because we do here at Gone Force Racing. I won't get into religion or politics. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is I have to put on 3 hats. And then when I beat them, that hurts. When they beat me, it hurts me. But we've made it together as a family, and the forces are together, and drag racing is a family. They're still together. Now I'm part of your family.
That's right. Hey, was that the scaredest you've ever been when Courtney got hurt? Because, when stuff happens to us, we try to, grit our teeth and get through it. But did you have a panic attack when she went to the hospital? Is that true?
I actually went down on my motorcycle, and the ambulance was out on the track getting Ashley one year, and I crashed, and they ended up taking me to the hospital. And I was just going to see if she goes, what's wrong with Dad? He was already out of the car. But Brittany rolled end over end after she won the championship. And she rolled end over end right in front of me. And I just come out of the hospital at the opening race at Pomona. Wow. And yeah, you're terrified when you see these little kids. Courtney, the same thing. They've been through the drill. They get tough. They get back. Let me tell you, women are tougher than men, if you want to know how I feel, because I've seen them go through stuff that I even looked at and said, oh, my God, why would you want to get back in that 10,000 horsepower, 330 miles an hour in less than 4 seconds down a racetrack, knowing that the monster's in there? It'll get you. It got me. It got one of my drivers, Eric Medlin, in Gainesville years back, and we love him. We pray to him every day. A great young kid, up and coming, just great. But things go wrong. It don't happen very often. We have a really good sport, but that's how I got Force American Made, working with his dad, working with Pro, working with the military, Army. How do we build better helmets? How do we build better chassis? How do we protect these kids that don't have a clue what's out there? And that's why at my age, I made a lot of money. I don't have time to go home and spend it. You know what I mean? I just keep pumping it back into race cars. But let me tell you something. I owe the sport, and that's why I've got to stay, even at my age. Now, I ain't going to be able to drive till I'm 100. We know that, but I'm going to stay because I love it, and I owe to protect these kids. They're the only friends. Ron Capps fighting against me. Got out of the car when I beat him. He didn't want that 150 thrown on him that he lost to me, but he was the first guy to hug me, jumping up and down like a kid, excited because they are kids. And so I'm not as good as these kids anymore, even though I'm winning. I'm getting the points. They are better than me, and I got to find every moment to win and what I can do to just stay in the game. These kids are the future of our sport. Robert Height, my kids. So God bless them. I love it, and I know I'm eating up too much time.
Oh, no, that really hits close to home, too. My daughter had heart surgery. I also have another young daughter who I'm trying to get to ride a bike right now, which is obviously very difficult. I can't even imagine what you did. Also cool, Ashley, Brittany, Courtney, ABC. And that is where you're joining us right now, ABC. So you are a part of the family. We're together.
Ashley, Brittany. But I want to tell you, your girl, how old is she?
I have a 6-year-old and I have a 2-year-old.
Well, the one that had the surgery, tell her we love her here at John Force Racing and NHRA. And I'll tell you why. Because what she went through, can you imagine a little kid to go through that? The fear of the unknown. But now she's done it. She's a fighter. She will take that. I take a negative and I make it positive. And that little girl of you is going to be a fighter. She may be running this country someday, and I hope so.
Yeah, she's already a badass, 2 years old, and she is as tough as they come. So
she's running his house.
You nailed it. Yeah, running my house right now as we speak.
Hey, we got to run, but I just want to thank you for your time. And you have one line that I love. I'm going to mention it to my bosses, because you said you work 4 seconds a day, right? Right down that strip. That's my goal. 4 seconds a day in this company. We'll see how it goes.
It's what it's all about. I really love what I do, and thank you for having me on. And John Force says it ain't over till I say it's over. I'm going to be around a while to entertain them.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Thanks so much.
I hope John Force gets to keep going for as long as humanly possible. It's amazing he's done it this long.
I love talking to him.
That dude is pure
even
energy.
with the 1,000 sponsor mentions. But I just love the rags to riches story, because, literally, when you start with nothing and you make it to the top, and he's 70 years old.
Unreal.
He's supposed to be retired at this point. Most people at 70 are done. You're packing it in, and he's still traveling. And before we started taping, he said he had like 1 hour of sleep. That's all he needed, 1 hour of sleep. So I think he's just a fantastic representative of not just the hot rod racing, the drags and all that, but just sports in general. His positive energy is so infectious. I just love hearing him, and I could talk to John Force every day.
Yeah, just a fantastic guy. Now, John Force has the keys to some of the most amazing hot rods you'd ever see. We had the keys to the Chase Center 2 weeks ago. In our very own hands, we had the big fake ceremonial one and the little jingly real ones that Rick Welts actually opened the door with. Now, what was cool about that, and this is going to be our Tell Me a Story segment for the show.
Okay.
We tell a story every week. It doesn't include balloons, but we actually went in. We did this great walk and talk where Rick Welts actually unlocked the doors with you for the very first time. Then we had to rush in and literally sit down and do this interview for the podcast, the first ever podcast inside the Chase Center. And as Rick left, then you, Raymond Ritter, Leonard, and I actually had a chance to go see everything. So we recorded this whole podcast about the Chase Center, having only really taken a sneak peek. So I thought it would be cool for us to kind of just tell our impressions, having seen all the finishing touches in there. There's a lot of stuff already done. And so we saw everything in there.
Well, I don't know if we saw everything.
Well, we saw pretty much everything.
We saw what they let us see.
No, we went everywhere.
We didn't see inside.
We were in the Warriors players' bathrooms even.
Well, no, we were.
We were in the Tom Tolbert Memorial urinal. We saw every. Why did I just go to all the bathrooms?
I don't know. It seems like
I don't know. I don't know why that stuck out.
Strange direction to head in.
What to you was the most impressive thing you saw behind the scenes, Larry Beal? Not bathroom related.
Just the fact. Well, for one thing, they obviously spared no expense, and privately financed and all that. The one thing I thought was exceptionally cool, and there will be an official media tour, which I think is on the
2 Mondays from now.
August 26th, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of interviews on the 27th. But in addition to what is a retractable Jumbotron that goes up into the roof, which...
It's just unbelievable.
It's because the screen is crazy big, but under the category of, man, they do really think of everything. As you walk down towards where the court will be, underneath the Jumbotron and sort of, it's hard to describe how this setup
Like
will
if
work.
you're sitting courtside and you wanted to look up at the scoreboard, you couldn't see the scoreboard.
Yeah,
You'd be
because you're
under the
kind
scoreboard.
of underneath it.
So yeah.
So they have another set of screens.
Yes.
Like,
it's like a scoreboard within the scoreboard.
yes, it is a scoreboard within the
but
scoreboard.
it's underneath it, so you can see it courtside.
So the people in all of the rich folk seats that are sitting courtside,
or the players.
well, the players too can see
Yeah.
can see the stats more easily. But I think Raymond Ritter was telling us that the scoreboard under the Giants scoreboard is bigger than what they had at Oracle Arena. All of those. So it's like diamonds on top of rubies on top of diamonds. It's
pretty crazy. Yeah, they took us into these wine cellars, which we'll never see again, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That were pretty remarkable. They were like bunkers with like wine cellars, and they walked right up into the lower bowl. Like it's nuts. But for me, aside from the bathrooms, which we checked out,
You seem to be
dude,
kind
these
of
bathrooms are
obsessed with
legit.
Well, yeah,
I mean, like they had like literally working full blown spas and all these
Right,
like aquatic
right.
things right there
well,
next to the Warriors locker room.
hot and cold plunge
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So the locker room is a big circle, which
Yeah.
is really cool. You don't have any nooks and crannies or corners for players to hide in. It's a very neat open area.
Shaped like a basketball.
Yeah, and so what was neat to me is when you walk out of that locker room, you can hang a left and you can go to the court, the real basketball court, the arena, or you can keep going straight and you're going to walk through a little workout area and then boom, you're on the practice court.
Right.
And so to me, I thought that was really cool because like when we go to cover the Warriors every day, we go to Oakland and then we go to the Marriott and then we go to the fifth
Right.
floor, and it's like this setup they've had for many, many years there, but it's all over the place. And then you look at the Chase Center. I mean, they're going to pull in park underground. They're right there.
Right.
They're in the practice. We are standing on the actual like center court of the practice facility, and it was pretty cool. And they shout out Al Addles in there.
Yes.
There's
yes.
a big Al Addles tribute in the practice court. Also, another really cool fact that we learned is that the media center is going to be dedicated to Bill King, the great A's, Raiders, Warriors broadcaster, just an absolute icon, Hall of Famer. And I thought the nod to Bill King was really cool.
Yeah. The practice court was one of the first things they had finished, and I had a chance. If there was a ball there,
Yeah.
I would have grabbed a ball and tried to be the guy that made the first shot on the practice. Well, probably one of the construction workers is gone. I know.
Someone
But
has to have stuck a ball in
somebody.
there.
But actually, I had a little mishap recently, and kind of almost went KD and almost tore my Achilles tendon. And so Rick Welch was among those joking, yeah, you could make the first shot and tear the first Achilles on our
Yes,
practice court the way you're
exactly.
moving,
That
because
would've
I was hobbling around.
That would have been absolutely unfortunate.
But so what is the number one? Let's bathrooms aside. since
Aside
it
from
seems
the
to be,
bathrooms,
what's the most impressive thing? I like the Jumbotron with the scoreboard within a scoreboard.
The Jumbotron was spectacular. I think that when you go there, you're going to see an arena that is
Plaza?
pretty freaking amazing. Yeah. I said actually on that podcast episode recorded, the Plaza to me was really what jumped out, but that was before we'd seen the whole arena inside and out, and we would have loved to share all this with you, but they're on a media blackout. So we could only see it with our eyes. We couldn't take pictures. We can tell you about it, but
Until the 26th of August.
yeah, I mean, that place, it's really just no expenses spared. They went crazy in there, and I think people will like it. Obviously, the transportation thing is going to be tricky. They're working really hard on that,
It's
but
gonna be challenging.
we'll see. We'll see how it all goes.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited
we'll
to
what
see the WWE there. And then also the Warriors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's gonna make Joe Lacob really happy to know that you're excited about the WWE.
My WWE tickets count the same as the Warriors tickets. They get all the money now. They own the arena.
That's true. That is a big. I mean, that's why part of the reason why they built it. But we could get into that some other time. I was just gonna go into my Undertaker every time you mention WWE, but. Something rang a bell when you talked about the bathrooms, of course, because of the spas, the hot tub, and the cold plunge. You know where I'm going
as long as
here.
you don't go too cold.
You don't want to be too cold because then you got to get your feet circumcised, as Antonio Brown described on Hard Knocks in week 2. This whole Antonio Brown thing has been so bizarre with the helmet and crowdsourcing to see if they could find a used Schutt Air Advantage helmet, slightly used.
Size large.
Size large. And it looks like the NFL will now have to decide whether they will approve usage of that helmet because they want everybody in newer, safer helmets. But there's the whole frostbitten feet thing is really just so bizarre because if you're going to go in a cryo chamber, and many athletes do it at this point. I mean, we've seen a zillion guys in there. You gotta come out of there better than when you went in, not with feet that you can't walk on and all blistery because you didn't wear the right footwear. So the story itself was strange. His description of peeling layers like a doctor, his feet blistering up and peeling layers of skin off. Thinking about that as a professional athlete, looking down at your feet, that had to be horrifying.
Especially a wide receiver who has to make all those cuts.
What have I done?
Yeah.
What is going... I mean, you have to be thinking, like, okay, I'm going to get better, right? But, there have been cases where people, you have frostbite, they start chopping digits off from frostbite. So I don't know that it was that severe, but...
it was a burn, essentially.
That is career threatening when you get to a certain level if you damage your feet enough. The whole Antonio Brown thing. What's the song that you sing to your kids?
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Yeah, go.
So we've covered head with the helmet.
And shoulders, knees, and toes.
We've covered the toes with the cryo burn. So are we gonna have to worry about his shoulders?
Or is it worse with his knee? Oh, man.
I mean, it's been a myriad of issues for him. Now, one thing that I think I want to talk about on this situation is, I was off last week on vacation at the beach getting my own different kind of burns. But I think that when this helmet thing came up and he was threatening retirement, everybody freaked out about that. And I just know that this guy, when he is on the field, is the elite of the elite. And the work he puts in, we saw all the videos. Like, he'd have the blackout shades on and he's catching balls and tossing them back. And he's doing all these incredible workouts. This guy is so dedicated to his craft. So dedicated, in fact, that he got into a cryo chamber and burnt his feet on accident. This guy's not retiring. He's not throwing away that money. Like, anybody that thought he was going to hang it up. Come on.
The dedication to the sport is one thing. But I'm just more bottom line. $30 million guaranteed. It's a $50 million contract.
You're not turning that away.
You know who walks away from that? Nobody except Kevin Durant, who left $57 million on the table, but he's already made all of his money.
He's got other options.
So, unfortunately, the media kind of crowdsources too at this point. And as soon as you hear Antonio Brown is threatening retirement, everybody just runs with it.
Headline after headline after headline.
It's irresistible. Now, some of the issues that Mike Silver from NFL Network brought up in what was a fantastic kind of 20-tweet description of AB's Raider experience suggests that there may be some problems. Like, he's not locked in when they're doing the meetings. He's on an iPad, fooling around, whatever, the cell phone, this, that. We saw this with the Steelers where they said, yeah, we know he's one of the best receivers in football, maybe the best. You can have him for a third and a fifth rounder, and we'll drive him to the airport.
Yeah.
So when you look at his resume and his skill set, and then look at the Steelers side of it, like, we were ready for this dude to get out of town.
But he was trying to get out of town. He was acting up to get out of town.
Well, of course.
He was getting out of town.
But has he stopped acting up?
It has been a bit of a circus so far.
We haven't played.
It has.
He hasn't played one game. The Raiders have one game under their belt.
He doesn't need to, though.
No, the preseason doesn't matter. Look, when they play week 1, I'm sure he's going to be fine, and you'll probably get him on your fantasy team.
I'm going to win more money with AD this year. I do it every year.
But the question is, like, I would wonder if you could, on Hard Knocks, give John Gruden some truth serum and wire him up to the polygraph and say, how many headaches? Have you already had more headaches with Antonio Brown than you expected? I think that thing would be going.
But the headaches will be worth it. They have to be. When he gets on the field, he makes Derek Carr better. He makes the receivers better. He makes the cornerbacks that cover him in practice better. He makes everybody around him better when he's on the field. Can he get on the field?
Well, he will.
He's got to be on the field.
His feet will get better.
So that's the problem.
It just seems like...
Let's wait till he's on the field. Then we'll see. I'm an Antonio Brown guy. I'm AB all day.
I love watching him play. It's all the other stuff that is just like, really, dude? I
if
mean,
you're an elite wide receiver that doesn't have a bunch of issues, are you really an elite wide receiver?
probably Terrell Owens would say no.
I mean, seriously.
I was thinking about it this week, and I was just thinking back to the video of T.O. doing the sit-ups in Philadelphia when he was holding out, and there was, remember, and we had him on our post-game show, the NBA post-game show, just a few months ago because he's a big Warriors fan and he loves to hoop. But, yeah, no, there's a lot of receivers that are divas, and I just wonder whether this is going to be worth the investment. Does he make it to Vegas with this team before John Gruden wants to strangle him? I'm not sure.
He may want to strangle him, but he won't, and he will make it to Vegas. And I don't think the Raiders are going to be a great team this year, but I think they'll be far better with Antonio Brown. There's just no debating that.
Well, he is a great player.
Yeah.
He's a great player, but he is much like nitroglycerine because you toss it up in the air, you better catch it because if it drops, boom! So we'll see.
Time for Leonard to drop his question of the week.
He didn't set up his microphone. Wow.
Yell it.
Wow.
Why were you guys laughing so much at the beginning of this podcast?
That is a good question. Are you blaming me?
Fire it off. Let's see it.
No, that was his question.
That was my question.
Oh, that was literally. Oh,
I think
wow.
I think what happened here is Leonard was unprepared with a question. He
What
forgot.
happened is before this podcast, I don't know why, but Larry started his usual aloha, which is automatic, and broke down halfway through.
No.
And I don't know why, but that set us off into this this middle school giggling fit that I think we were both in a lot of trouble, but I couldn't shake it. I had to leave. I literally left the room.
But I thought it started with your bizarre Alcatraz story. That your theory on how the guys
I know
supposedly
how the guys got off Alcatraz, and I told the story before the pod. I will save that. I'll tell it next week. How about that?
Okay,
I'll go do all the deep dive research.
Okay.
We're going to talk about how they got off Alcatraz next week on this very podcast.
What a tease.
What a tease. I know
Unbelievable.
how they got off, and they did get
You
off.
think they were not eaten by sharks? They didn't
No
drown? No, they never found the bodies,
No, they made it out.
Okay.
They made it to Brazil.
Brazil. Like Bobo Brazil. You remember Bobo
Yeah.
Brazil? Wrestler? You're a big WWE guy.
I'm a historian of WWE.
Okay. So at this point, since you've teased this big Alcatraz knowledge that you're going to be dropping on everybody, probably they should subscribe to make sure that they don't miss next week's
That's
pod.
a fantastic point, because if you don't subscribe, you might miss it. We won't tweet it. We'll probably make you actually come find it. So subscribe. Where can you find us? iTunes, Spotify. Those are our two favorites right now. YouTube, where you can actually see all this nonsense, including me smacking my head on the table giggling. And we're also on Google Play and on abc7news.com/withauthority.
A lot of platforms.
Any platform you need, we'll find a way to be there for you, the listener.
That's it. Episode 20 in the books. And we say, aloha. Stop laughing. With authority.
Just go ahead.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Aloha. Oh, we're not right. I am not ready to perform.
Oh, that's the open. That's the show open now. We're
I gotta
putting,
get some water. I need to hydrate. It's 100 degrees outside, Leonard. All right.
just get it out.
Why is this happening?
We're so screwed. Save us, Leonard.
All right. I don't know why I'm laughing. Aloha. That was not funny. What is wrong with you? I gave it my best shot.
I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it. Oh my god, I'm laughing too hard.
It's like you need a standing 8 count. You must leave the room. You're not professional right now.